It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer Fantasy, it's easy to learn the rules. Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington Show.
Welcome one and all. It's time for another spicy, red-hot, sizzling, tingling edition of the Andy and Rem Show, episode 195. And tonight, Remington will not be sparing the rod. Word on the street is that Remington was not thrilled with the standard of Golden Demon USA 2022. And he's going to be going in full force, leaving no critical stone unturned. Everybody start looking forward to that. In the meantime, let's get rid of the thumbnail and say, hello, welcome back. Been a couple of weeks, hasn't it?
Yes, Andy. Hello, welcome everyone to the Andy and Remington Show.
Yes, now, people may be wondering why there wasn't a show for the last couple of weeks. Part of that may have been down to a Remington illness. Is that right?
Yes, I had a very stressful couple of weeks, and I also got COVID. I thought I could, but I failed a toughness roll, and it got me down to one wound, basically. So somehow I fled the battle. So there you are.
Survived. Oh, we've got 5 viewers right now. For a couple of week absence, usually just forget the show exists. So shall we just dive straight into this red hot succulent content? Because
Andy,
some people weren't happy with the Golden Demon, yeah? So let's have a look, shall we? This took place at Epsicon in the US of A. And let's have a look at some of the winners. And some of the... Here's the gold for Warhammer 40,000 single miniature. We're going to rate these out of 10. I think you're going to be way more harsh than I am. Of strong words you had before we went live.
Now, first off, I'm not so au fait with 40k. I do like it a lot. Is this a popular miniature? Is it for Andy, or is it a conversion? Do you know?
I don't
Does it say?
know.
I think it's a cool miniature, and this was the first winner that I saw, and I was thinking, okay, cool, man. We're going to see some good stuff. So I think that is a solid entry, and that is fair play. I'm seeing a lot of that sword technique on the paint jobs. Seems to have become fairly standard. I haven't tried painting that yet, so I'd love to give it a go because it does look mega cool.
Do you think it's perhaps being overused?
I don't know. It just looks so cool, doesn't it? So you're just seeing it more. I think all the tutorials that are out there are raising the standard of painting generally, and better cameras, better photography techniques. We're seeing more the standard of paintings going up. So I would like to think that that would be reflected in the Golden Demons. But let's carry on. I think this is a worthy entry.
Rate it out of 10 then.
This is an 8.
I'm going to go one better, I think. Judging it... Actually, you know what? I'm going to give it an 8 as well. I was going to give it a 9, but then I saw the hair on the severed head didn't look particularly adventurous. So I'm knocking down a full point for that.
I like the skulls. They're very clean looking. Very nice. I do like the skulls. I like the sword. the I'd have to see it more, and the base looks wicked. Now the silver prize, I believe, is coming next. So should we have a quick look at that one?
This is the silver.
Really
And
boring. Really boring.
you think the pose maybe isn't doing it for me particularly?
Boring diorama. It's just a bloke stood there. No, I don't know.
It's very good paintwork, obviously, but would it grab your attention?
No. No, perhaps I need to look like really close up to it. I mean, I think judges on these things are looking for flaws in the paint job, and if they can't find any, then it just sort of goes to the top of the list. But that's wrong for me because I think imperfections can still give something character. You know, it's if you look at Vincent van Gogh painting, you might say that there's a lot of imperfections. It looks like you might say some of his paintings look like a child did it, but that doesn't mean he's not a phenomenal artist with vision. But it seems like there is a painting standard which they are definitely looking to achieve, and this achieves that standard. But to me, it's becoming boring.
You compare it to other subjective judging competitions out there in the world. For example, if you're watching the Olympics or something like that, and you come across the gymnastics maybe, or diving, something like that, there has to be a level of absolute perfection at the top level. Otherwise, you've got no chance in the judge's eyes. But does that make it boring? I would say yeah.
Yeah, this is just my opinion. So I totally understand that point of view as well, Andy. And it can't be easy to be a judge. And no matter no matter what model you pick for whatever award, you're going to get people that disagree with you, and that's cool. But we've got the right to sort of make our own judgments. That's the whole point of it. But if something, if I see something that I think's inspiring, I will say if I think it's wicked. It's like I'm not the final voice. It's just my opinion. So there you go. Maybe hopefully you got yours as well. But I just think out of the potential hundreds or even thousands of entries, I don't think this is worthy of how can this be worthy of a top three? I didn't see all the other entries, but
we're not really in any position to judge the top level technical mastery of each individual brushstroke. So we're really judging this on whether it inspires us and grabs us. All this.
Yeah,
we're not
totally.
painting judges.
So. Totally, and I'm not a painting competition winner. So again, but we've got our own show. So this is our platform. We can say what we like.
So what about this one out of 10? What do you think?
Let's say 5. Let's say 5. There's some nice, wonderfully painted areas of it, but as a miniature, yeah.
I'm gonna go. Yeah. I'm equally uninspired, not necessarily by the paint job, but I think the pose overall, and doesn't jump out at me particularly. So I'm gonna go for a 6.
Okay.
Up next, this is a bit more interesting. Let me get an even closer look at it. Let me.
So this is by Alexandra dos Santos. So does that mean twin saints? That's a cool name. Alexander Twin Saint.
So I don't know whether this is just a standard model, whether it's got some need to it, but I do like that actually.
I think the base is completely dominating this miniature. So we'll have to sort of zoom in really to see it, but immediately as a miniature, I think it's better than the silver placed one, in my opinion.
I like I think it's just the fact that it's an interesting model that takes me. It's got these arms coming off it with the claws on the end. Sure. It's got a big, interesting hammer.
Yeah.
So on that basis, it grabs me a bit more.
Yeah.
Base. I think it could do without this lower part of the base, to be honest. This plinth area. It could do without that.
Yeah, I do agree. The miniature itself, it's probably inspired by Dr. Octopus, maybe, from Marvel.
Pretty cool, though. I'd go for a 7 on. What do you think?
Hey. Yeah, it's better than the other one, so yeah, I'm going to say a 7 as well.
I think that. Okay, then we've got Squad. So first of all, we've got these Sisters of Battle floating around the place with bits of parchment, as flying Warhammer figures do. And the
Yeah,
gold here, very, very, very clean. Obviously, we expect perfection, technically, of course.
it's the wings have certainly got that. It's a great paint job. It's good. I think this is really good. Swords look magnificent. The skin, um, the metal work. You know, is not apparently it's not using metal paint, so there's no gold paint being used. So they've mixed browns and very dark browns with various tones of yellow and light brown to create this armor effect. It's very impressive, and with the red and white, sort of tunics they're wearing, amazing, really good paint job, and yeah, a worthy winner of the squad. I think quite inspiring.
I'm a big fan of gold. I would give this a 9, I think.
Yeah, I'll go with that as well.
Very nice. Then we've got some more squads. We've got some Space Marines. It doesn't particularly inspire me immediately. Not the most exciting Warhammer 40,000 squad I've ever seen.
No, same. I mean, maybe we need to look closer, but yeah, just kind of standard for me.
I'm sure we do need to look closer just to see the technical mastery, but we can assume it's there on all of these, otherwise they wouldn't have top 3 in their category. We can just assume they're all perfect, and if you zoom in, every individual highlight would blow your mind. But we're going by what inspires us at first glance.
I mean, if the general standard becomes almost perfection and you're getting a lot of almost all perfect paint jobs, then what do you have to go for? You're looking for imagination, inspiration, and I think they could have improved this with the bases, because the individual bases look good, but on the plinth, it suddenly takes it away from the world in which they lived in. So
That is a good point.
the whole base should be that sort of alien Mars sand-like thing, and you'd feel more like you're part of it then.
Yeah, so it doesn't particularly grab me. I'd say a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll go with that. 6.
This is probably a bit more like what you were just talking about, actually, where it turns into almost a diorama. That you've got a little slice of the world they're in with these.
Andy, these look like old Space Marines. Am I right? Are they like Horus Heresy ones? Are they like 30k Space Marines? Because they look like smaller. Am I wrong about that? And they've got the old beak helmets on, no?
I
Maybe they
don't
haven't.
see any beak helmets, actually. I think these are just fairly standard
It
Space Marines.
right. It looks like the cover of a 40k book.
Yes.
And perhaps they used one as an inspiration for the diorama, which is kind of cool. I think the yellow helmet looks really odd, because they all look sort of battle worn, all the other guys, and there's this guy with a bright yellow helmet on. It's almost like, did he steal that from someone?
It is consistent with that army's colour scheme, but I agree. It's even back in the day, I never really was a fan of the old yellow helmets on red armour.
Right, that's Blood Angels, is it?
If it's not, then I don't know what it is. I assume. I don't actually see the Blood Angels logo. Do I? Oh yeah,
Well, look,
we've got the drop of blood on the banner pole there with the wings.
right. Well, this is not awful. I don't think it's a winner. Um, I'm surprised it's in the top 3.
I prefer it to the silver entry. Overall,
Yeah, it's a grim, dark world of the future. Yeah, certainly it does encapsulate that. Yeah,
I do like it. So I'm torn between 7 and 8.
I'm going to give it a 6.
I'm going to come
to
down on the
try.
side of 7. It's a good effort to put them in a position that showcases them within their world, but doesn't fire that more so than this. So we can agree with the winner there, and I think we've both thought so far that the bronze is superior to the silver. Vehicle. Now, this is definitely different. Is this?
Is this the winner?
This is the gold vehicle winner.
Yeah, it's horrible. It is horrible. Like it's not. It's like imagine, you've painted this. You spent hours on it, and you go, "Look, Mom, I painted this," and she goes, "Oh, it's all like it looks all rusty and old," and then you go, "Yeah, but that's the whole point." And I think it is a marvelous paint job, and it's got wonderful character, and all those things that I said about making it look like a piece of art rather than perfection. This one has achieved that because it's not perfection; it's everything but it's incredible. It's not something that I would like to put on display because the aesthetic of Nurgle is like horrible, right? But it is a great paint job and a worthy win.
So what do you think out of 10?
It's 9.
I'm not going to rate it that highly because I'm just not a fan of the dirty look in general. I think there's probably ridiculously amazing paint job underneath the filth, but we can't actually see it. That's
That
how
would
I
be
that's how I
interesting.
view it.
And if a section of it had almost been wiped clean, that would be an interesting diorama, wouldn't it? Of some droids or what do you call the sort of robo droids in the Space Marines that help servo droids?
Servo skulls.
Yeah, it would be interesting if they were in there like cleaning it up. It was
There
almost
is
like
that actually. There's that miniature. There's the guy with a rag cleaning the guy's sword. You could have put him on the base polishing up one of the legs and had that like top notch.
That would be phenomenal. To me, that's a diorama. It's telling a story. You've captured a moment there. You know.
I'm not really a fan. I'm only going to give this. You know what? I'm going to be fair and give it 7. I can't really give it lower than that because it is very well done for what it's going for. It's just the style isn't my cup of tea, personally. So let's have a look at the comments before we go on to the next one.
Yeah, doing the same. Yeah.
David
David.
says, yes, everyone has an opinion, indeed.
Yeah.
Donald says the problem is linking the competition to an official range from a specific company. I bet you see more variety of technique in competitions that allow scratch build and custom models. That's probably true. People want to paint
Yeah.
it the Games Workshop way to the highest possible degree, don't they?
Yeah, and things. I'm a child of the '80s, so when I was looking at White Dwarf in the '80s, similar to you, Andy, the paint until the '90s, the paint jobs were very unique. You saw sort of John Blanche's style, and that was so artistic. It wasn't anything to do with like clean perfection. And then the '90s came, and you got these like bright reds and goblin green, and it just became more like colourful, and not as sort of dark and just very vivid. And now it's sort of like they've decided on a Games Workshop standard, and that's what they want to see now, and that's what they teach.
Well, here's the next vehicle, and this one, the
Yeah,
silver, and it just
you have to
looks
look closely at this, Andy, because the shield is a work of art in itself.
is.
It's superb paint job. This is.
There are other pictures floating around of all these out there in the world, by the way. This one, it's got a very high level of technical mastery. I would say
Yeah,
more so than the winner.
yeah, you might argue that. Yeah,
I
I'd
don't
go with
know.
that.
I don't know if the color scheme particularly does it for me. I'm not
I love
sure.
the I love the Renaissance artwork style on the shield in particular. It is amazing. This is a painter that has studied art.
Well, I would hope all of the people who won the Golden Demon Awards have studied art.
No, but I don't think this is a painter that just paints miniatures. I think this is somebody that's maybe gone to some kind of art school
You often
and
see that
studied.
with really high-level miniature painters. Some of them definitely came from painting on flat medium, and you can see that in armor panels anytime they get something like a cloak to work with.
Yeah. The tunic has got wonderful shading on it. Some really interesting colours there, and the basing looks superb as well.
Are you
But yeah,
gonna
it's just a great thing.
Are you gonna
I'm
rate
gonna
this
give
one?
I'm gonna give this a 9.
I'm only gonna give it
Yeah,
an 8, just because it
I,
doesn't grab me, but I can appreciate.
I would like similar to yourself, Andy. I think this could easily be number 1 rather than the Nurgle
Then
monstrosity.
we've got this with the bronze. Now, when you're talking about a dirty, weathered vehicle, this is probably more my cup of tea, where it looks like it's been scratched up in battle, but then been cleaned afterwards.
Yeah.
So there's not so much dirt, it's just the actual battle damage that's inflicted rather than filth. So that's my kind of battle damage.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. I wish the base was bigger. The base looks very small.
Yeah, the base
Um,
isn't very interesting on this one.
no. No, I'd like to see it. What's it doing? Is it fighting for its life? Is it clearing a path? We don't know because the base isn't telling us.
This is a
Um,
case of the
but
actual painting being top notch. Base lets
yeah,
it down a little bit, I think.
yeah. I mean, look, this is not a diorama competition, is it? So
No.
a fair play. But for me, I'm talking about if you go into that sort of length to make the miniature nice, go to that. Go even further to make the whole story look nice.
What do you think for a rating?
8.
I think I can agree there. I do like this one a lot. It might be my favourite of the vehicles, actually.
Right.
I'm not sold on this one at all. I know you're very much a fan of this one. I prefer the bronze. Okay, large model. So this one gold, and I think this is going to divide people.
Yeah, you really need to zoom into this. Is the whole model looks spectacular, but to see the detail and for it to have won top award, I imagine the close-up detail would look, very, very, very well painted and clean. It kind of looks like a giant plastic toy, doesn't it? Whereas if you look at the silver entry of that, the sort of Renaissance one, that does not look like a toy.
You know what's
It
very
looks like a
annoying?
work of art.
It doesn't even let you zoom in on the pictures on this browser
I
I'm
know,
using here.
I know.
Very
I
annoying.
tried that. But if you look closely, it looks like there's someone coming out of the ground or someone that's been pushed into the ground. Can you see that with a
Yes,
beard?
just
Or
down here.
they're getting their soul sucked out of them.
And rightly so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if we're talking about a diorama, then this is definitely one. Yeah.
So what are you going to rate that out of 10?
Well, I think just from that picture, it still just looks like a giant Mattel toy. So I'm going to give this an 8.
I was leaning towards 8 as well here, because obviously this miniature in the middle is very good. The surrounding bit doesn't really have a lot going on, but does it need to? I think that does make it look a lot more basic.
Well, the thing is, with the Necrons, their ships are what, tens of thousands of years old. Am I right in that?
I
Surely they would
assume.
be a bit more weathered. And I think if the ship itself was a bit more weathered, it would give it a lot more authenticity.
Got a couple more here. So I believe this is Mortarian. Big Nurgle, Plague Dude. Just from these images, I'm not seeing anything particularly in this one that grabs me
No.
compared to the other ones I've seen. So
Yeah, I think we've got to trust that every part of it is really well painted.
I'm sure it is.
And,
Just the colour scheme doesn't really excite me. I'd be tempted to drop this one to a 6 compared to these other ones. Do we even rate this one?
you
I,
didn't rate it. I think the greens are putting me off in that miniature.
I was going to give a
Greens,
7 to this one.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
a
I'll go with that.
6 for this one. And then we've got Gaskell himself there. I think it's a bit too dark, this one.
Yeah, it looked like a Chaos Warrior at first from a distance. I mean, yeah, I think they could have popped out Graskell's face a bit more with some potentially some bright greens, but they've gone for the grimy, realistic look.
Yeah, I was going to say, it looks very realistic.
It looks like he's been burnt to a char. Yeah, I mean, it's talk about weathered. This is like, I don't know. It looks like he's just been through a nuclear war, isn't it, and come out the other side.
But you can actually see the paint job beneath it, though. So I'm going to give it some credit for that. I'm not sure, it could be my favourite of these large models, actually, this one. Even though I've been critical.
Maybe if they just made what the red laser eye just pop out a bit.
It just needs something, doesn't it?
Yeah, because even though like his body and his arm has been battle worn, the laser would still shine through, wouldn't it? So the laser eye. I mean, if there is a laser eye.
I'd say maybe a high 7 for this one.
Yeah, no, I'm going to give this an 8.5. I like it. Growing on me.
Alright, next.
You'd have to do your whole army like that, wouldn't you?
So we're on to Age of Sigmar now, and this is the gold single miniature, and also I can tell you this one won the overall Slayer Sword as well.
Yeah, this is what's put me off the whole competition, because I think this is really boring.
This is the one that sparked all the controversy in the community. People didn't think that this was exciting enough to warrant the Slayer Sword.
No way, they are right. This looks like a 50p miniature, and maybe that's the point of it. That they've made a very cheap miniature look a bit more expensive, but it looks like a cartoon.
I would say if you saw this in a White Dwarf magazine in the late 90s,
yeah,
would it surprise you particularly? Does it leap out and say, this is the latest in modern painting techniques to blow your mind?
yeah, but there's techniques in there that weren't being used.
There are, but they wouldn't necessarily leap out into your eyeballs, would they, off the page, unless you look really carefully?
It looks very flat, doesn't it? It looks very 2D. It doesn't look like this sort of creature is in his native environment whatsoever. He's like luminous blue. I wouldn't be surprised if it was painted using contrast paints. And maybe that's what they like about it, because they can sort of do a round of pushing how great contrast paints are.
I would be very surprised if that is the case. I'm sure at the top level, Slayer Sword winning, they've gone over this with a microscope and found absolutely zero imperfections in the technique. Why it's won. But I think it needs more going on than perfection, which is weird to say, but you need to be more than perfect. My eye.
I mean, is this a model that you buy on its own, or is this just like a chieftain within like a skink unit?
Not entirely sure.
But Andy, don't you agree? It looks like sort of an old Hero Quest model, a real cheap sort of plastic one.
I can see that. It's obviously a nice paint job, but it doesn't scream Slayer Sword winning entry to me. So how highly are you going to rate this one?
Well, it's like I'm not going to criticize the paint job because it's a great paint job. But is it a Slayer Sword winner? No, not for me. I'm going to give it a 7.
I'm going to give it an 8. I think that obviously the paintwork, everything that's been attempted on it is top notch. Just not that much has actually been attempted. Just an 8 from me.
They couldn't do any more to it. They couldn't make it any better. There's not much there. I mean,
This
yeah,
is the
but look,
one.
look at
This is the one people
so
felt should have won. I think this Sigvald.
rightly so. It's phenomenal.
It does something
That look,
different.
yeah, yeah. But look at the basic, everything about it is just like wow.
The one thing I will say though, even though it's probably technically a highly superior Sigvald compared to the other ones we've seen in the past, it doesn't inspire me as much as some of the ones that when they sent out the Sigvalds to the various professional painters. Some of those inspired me a bit more than this. But it is nice. I'm not sure about the face.
It reminds me of the Silver Surfer.
Yeah, it all kind of blends together a bit, so that's one slight mark against it.
Oh, come on, Andy! Look at the cloak. Look at every part of the detail is within. It's captured the vibe they're going for. I know it's sick,
I think it is ridiculously good.
and it also, Andy, it captures who Sigvald is or who he wants to be. Like perfect, like crystal. You know.
That's fair enough. There were elements of the other Sigvalds that we saw that just grabbed me more. But in terms of technical excellence, this may be the closest one to a 10 that we've seen far.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I'm giving this 9.5.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, how this did not win above the skink. I mean, that's just crime. You know, this would have taken many more hours to paint, I'm assuming.
Then we've got this guy that got bronze, and a little bit underwhelmed by this one, I think. Obviously, technically very good, but it's another one where it doesn't jump out at me as this is a top level painted model. It may be the model that they've chosen.
No, I would like to see their whole army painted to the standard. That would be an army winning entry for me. But as a single model, no. No.
I think I'm
It's
just not keen
like
on the actual miniature itself here.
Yeah, me too. It looks like a rank and file model.
I'd give this one a 6. Then we've got units.
I think, Andy, you wouldn't you want to submit a special miniature, not just a special paint job, but a miniature that has meaning to you. You know.
I think so. What do you think of this unit?
I need to look at them close up because just from the picture there, it just looks like the same paint jobs Games Workshop have done for these models, which were great. But if you look at the box art, yeah, they're pretty going towards the box art of this.
Yeah, in this picture, they do just look like box art standard, which is obviously a step below top level competition painting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not that crazy about this one. I'd say maybe a 7.
Yeah, 7 or 8.
Then
It gives me hope because I think I can paint to that standard a unit.
this one immediately grabbed me a bit more. I like that shield with the big mouth there. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I never noticed the little sort of goblin behind them before, or is it an nerdling? It's
There's something down there,
that.
yeah, a little familiar or something.
Would have liked the base to be part of the base itself to be part of that. Again, when they just put it on a plinth like that, it takes it away from the world that they're meant to be in. Great swords and axes. I love that effect on the weapons.
Good evening to Lazy Pirate and Bob the Herb Master. So yeah, I like this one a lot. I'd say I like the highlighting, like the metal. Yeah. I'm going to give this one a 9, actually.
Wow.
I'm a big fan of this paint job.
I'm giving it a high 8.
Then got the bronze entry, which is some very nicely painted skeletons.
I mean, the base is dominating that photo. Would have looked way better if they were in some sort of crypt basing or tomb basing or graveyard or anything but what they're standing on right now.
You got one of them emerging from the ground. That could have made quite a nice.
Yeah, this is like a Warhammer Underworlds, isn't it? Unit. Yeah, sick. They've got really good continuity of style within each model. Yeah, nice.
What's your rating?
7.5.
I was going to say 7 as well. So then we've got large miniature. This is the gold large miniature. Age of Sigmar. For me, I'm not entirely sold on particularly the pink areas. Obviously, they're nicely shaded. I think there could be more going on here than there is. I think more could have been done with this. I don't know what you think.
I like it. It's got just enough there to make you feel like I could have a go at that, which is cool because it's supposed to be inspiring.
When I look at the gold, I think that is ridiculously good. There's no way I could ever approach that level of painting gold. But then I look at the pink and think I could probably do that, which isn't what I want to see when I'm looking at Golden Demon.
Yeah, I think that belies how good it is because not just done washes over that. There's very subtle washes.
I'm sure they have, but it's not obvious.
It looks like veiny muscles. Very good. It's very, very good, that is.
Tempted to give it a really high score just for the gold and the blue, which I like a lot more than the pink, actually.
I mean, look, that combination of pink and blue is something that Vince Venturella is very like kind of I'd say is pretty famous for using that because they go so well. So if you want to make something pop out, that is a great way of doing it.
I'm going to give this one 9. It could have easily been a 10, this. Just looking at that gold, that standard attention to detail gone into the pink areas. Definitely be a 10, but I'm only going to give it a 9.
Giving it an 8. It sounds a bit harsh, but I'm giving it an 8 because I've seen this before. Seen this, not this exact model and paint job before, but I've seen this type of paint job many times now, and I know it's almost like an easy win to do that.
Squig. It's got silver. And
I need a closer photo, really. The base is phenomenal. Love that.
I was going to say I like the base. It looks like the kind of environment you'd expect to find these squigs in. You've got mushrooms on there, bounding across fallen trees.
You would if that model had been sort of scratch built or put together from different parts, you would say that's a gold. But because that is the actual model, it's so well crafted and it's got such character that is actually doing a lot of work for your eyes rather than the paint job. Does that make sense?
It does.
The figure is a diorama in itself, but that's how it comes.
I'd be tempted to give this one a 9 as well because I do like the colour scheme.
Yeah, I do like it. I'm gonna give it an 8 as well. It's phenomenal paint detail on the tongue as well. All the sort of now this is in another age this would have won, hands down. It looks like the sort of the artwork of that of the banner is very like 80s, very 80s. That you know, it's wonderfully John Blanche, isn't it? That is. I love this. It's great.
Great paint
In
job,
another age, this would.
but I think I'm almost feeling like the market on ridiculously well painted, great unclean ones oversaturated.
Yeah.
And they kind of blur together a bit because we've seen so many of them for decades
So
now.
many. Yeah, that's right. That is right.
This one does a
It's
couple
all
of things that stand out. Base is interesting, like a ton of Nurglings supporting a platform. Him on it.
incredible.
Banner is obviously very nice to help it stand out, so I'm going to give it a 9.
It is a 9 or more all day long. It's just been you've seen it so many times, haven't you? You've seen it in days gone by, and it's almost like they've had to put it in the top 3, not because they wanted to, but because they had to. Because it is a great paint job, but the direction Games Workshop wants to go in was the number one.
Middle Earth Gold. I'm not that crazy about this one. I don't know about you.
It's because the miniatures in Lord of the Rings just aren't that good.
That could be why. Doesn't particularly grab me.
Right.
No, I'd give that 6. It may be a 5 even.
No, I'll give it a 7. Yeah, 7. At least this is some kind of storyline going on, all right?
This is more like it. For this.
Is this just half of it?
I mean, the miniature is kind of hidden amongst the wood, but I like how the building is painted, so I don't know whether that should count. I'd give this probably a 7.
Bit of an odd entry, that is, isn't it? It's like, where's the other half?
I like it though. Then this. The base is doing a lot here. Miniature is almost hidden.
That is busy.
Can't really see what's going on. Glance here.
I thought that was a corpse cart, but it's not. It's Middle Earth, isn't it? Oh, it's the wizard, isn't it? We've got the rabbits pulling him.
Yep. Just difficult to tell what's going on at first glance, which is.
Yeah, it's a sick model, but the rabbits or the hares blend in too much with the scenery. Can't see them. Maybe that's intentional. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give it a 6 for that. I think a bit too much going on.
Yeah, it's probably a great model to look at in the flesh.
So let's just blitz through the other categories. Gonna run out of time. Diorama, gold, some witch hunters.
Amazing. I love this, but why that picture? You can't see what they're about to shoot. Is it wolves? Is it a bat thing?
Looks like wolves and a bat thing.
Yeah, the concept is great. That is telling a story. I love that. I love the trees, the shape of it all, the story. I want to see if are they getting there in time to save a life. That would be even more interesting. Maybe there could be a baby in there that the wolves are about to devour.
Space Marines fighting up close with some Nurgle Space Marines. Obviously very well painted, but I'm not sure it really grabs me. It looks a bit contrived.
Yeah.
Not entirely sold on that one. This one, it's hard to see anything that we can't affect at all. But it looks like that's the battle, maybe, being attacked by
Lynch army.
Something like that.
Maybe.
Cool, but it's hard to give it a score because they're not giving us very good pictures to work with here. Then duels. That one's not particularly grabbing me. Paint job is obviously excellent on this model. This one doesn't interest me as much.
That's a great paint job, Andy. That is great.
It is. The legs just aren't grabbing me.
Yeah.
They're looking a bit flat in this picture.
No, I like that. Yeah, this is wicked. The base is amazing.
It's hard to really look at these with just a single picture. I think we'd need to look at these in more detail another time, wouldn't we? Dioramas.
Yeah, we need more angles, but these look really good.
Maybe we'll do that next time. We'll have a closer look at the ones where there's actually a story being told, and go through pictures, and then we can go through some of this stuff next time as well.
In the lore, there's just better duels in 40k, right, than there is in Age of Sigmar. So that's just shocks me, really.
So, during the next week, I'm going to look for some better pictures of some of these duels and the dioramas, and we'll pour over those next week because we've got a few more things to talk about before we end this show. So, Horus Heresy is upon us. Any thoughts?
Yeah. Now, what thoughts on the trailer?
Looks cool, obviously. Space Marines with beaks again. And we're not that big on 40k on this channel, but it's interesting at least.
It's amazing, yeah.
So we'll keep our eyes peeled for developments in that world.
Andy, what is it? Is it like a whole movie animation? Is it a series? Is it one of hundreds of episodes? Because the story is enormous. What is it that they're plugging?
My understanding is that it's going to be a game system.
Oh, right. So it's not going to be a Warhammer Plus animation.
I don't know whether there's going to be animation here with it, but my understanding, setting up for a game system, which has been rumoured for a long time.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
Okay, then we've got Arena of Shades. We can actually see, we've seen these miniatures before, but we can also look at the sprues now for anyone who's into that sort of thing.
Yeah, so what we're looking at here is the supply chain crisis, really, isn't it? Because this was touted months ago. So obviously there's a big back catalogue of things to put out now. So,
well, yeah. Then the GW stocks, how are they doing?
Well, man, okay. You're looking at the 3-month chart there, and the question is, has the rot stopped? Because you're looking at the one you're on now is, well, you keep flicking them. They tell very different stories. Which one are you going to stick with?
Let's stick with this nice green one.
Look at that green one is the chart since day one. So you can see that in general, we're going up and to the right. But that doesn't tell the whole story. Over the last 4 months, you've seen a huge decline. And this is, COVID, the supply chain crisis. Post-COVID supply chain crisis, and now war with Russia. Oil prices going up, and what's plastic made out of, Andy? Oil, maybe? Or oil derivatives? Not looking good. But now, I've been buying when I can. Obviously, I've got to bring my average right down. I'm on 23 shares. My aim is to get to somewhere between 50 and 100 shares. So, to be honest, I like the price going down because it means I can buy more at cheaper prices. Games Workshop have declared a dividend of 70p per share, which tomorrow is the last day. You can get that. You buy shares. If you're holding shares tomorrow, you'll be eligible for that. So that means I'm going to be rewarded with about £16. So that's kind of cool. £16 every 3 months. Not too bad. So, of course, if I'm not planning on selling for a good few years, I'm really not bothered about the share price. But if I'm thinking of selling tomorrow, I'm going to be selling at a 29% loss, which isn't so good. If you look at the other picture there, Andy, maybe that tells you, that's asking the question, have we hit the bottom already? You can see the bottom there took place in early March when it hit a price of something like £66 a share, which was below pre-COVID prices. So that was the amount of fear and panic in the market when we thought World War III might be happening. And I would like to think we've hit the bottom. Of course, you never know.
So is your advice to buy then at the moment if you think that's the lowest it's going to get?
I would never advise anyone to buy because I'm not an advisor. But I would advise, if I had to, I'd say have a nibble because it's not been this low for almost 2 years. And in general, the share price is doing very well. The company is very profitable. And, if you're a fan of the company, why not own it? Right? So that's my philosophy.
Why not
But
have a
if you can
nibble? That's the Remington advice for the week.
and if you can get it cheap, it was at £120 a share. Today it's £74. So that's what's that? 40% discount. Games Workshop stuff is never on sale. So I think the share price is on sale. Just my opinion, not financial advice.
By the way, since we're talking about Golden Demon, I remembered that I was going through Games Workshop posters and publications. I've actually got some of it's like a little catalogue that I think they'd put it in White Dwarf, showing you the Golden Demon winners quite a few years ago. So I might take some pictures of those and do our painting.
Sure.
Yeah. Another thing that we're just going to touch on here, Mantic with their potential answer to 40k Firefight.
Wow.
So
Is this
there
a
you
new
go.
thing?
It is. They've got I think it's the second version of Firefight. The first one didn't really any waves. This one, it's got big vehicles in the starter box, vastly more models than in the GW boxes. So we'll see if this one catches on, whether the time is right for Mantic to have a successful non-skirmish sci-fi game.
How do they produce Space Marines and not infringe on IP?
Well, they're not Space Marines. They're Enforcers.
Forces, so they're armored future Crusaders now.
Basically. The large vehicles, quite not bad at all. Forge Fathers there. Dear Min.
Okay, so Forge Fathers, is that Space Dwarves?
Yes.
Wow. Well, that's something that could be unique to them now, right?
Till GW gets back on the squat wagon.
Yeah.
League,
Right.
who of course I play in Dead Zone.
Yeah.
Got the who are kind of like your Imperial Guard equivalent.
Yeah.
Then got your Assyrian. Marauders, who are obviously the Orcs.
Have you seen these models in face to face?
I've seen a lot of these face to face because a lot of these models are also used in Dead Zone.
Yeah, impressive to you?
Some of them are impressive, yes.
If
It's kind of mixed because some of them were released quite a while ago and some of them are quite recent.
Those look amazing. Those vehicles look amazing.
Very nice.
If you had to have an army, which one would you choose?
Well, I've already got quite a sizable Plague Dead Zone army that would go towards this. I've probably got all these zombies as that. Yeah. Easily turn that into Firefight. That weeks we'll talk more about that if I delve into it. Then I've been painting again. My Night Stalkers for Kings of War.
Wow.
So this is Reaper Soul Drinker. So this is one of the standard models, one of the standard Reapers, and it's just been converted with a Bad Squiddo Halloween mask, horns, extra arms.
It looks good. It looks really good, man.
So blood splattered everywhere. You can see what the standard models look like in a moment. There you go.
Speaking of gore, you didn't see much gore in the Golden Demons, did you?
Didn't actually, but there's plenty here. These are the standard
Yeah.
Reapers.
They look great, man. Andy, you've done great, man. You're going to be winning some painting awards as well as tactical awards, I think, at your next competition.
So the blood on them here, obviously I've just painted blood onto the spikes and the claws and kind of faded it as it goes up the arm. Then I thought that doesn't look bloody enough, so I kind of smeared a bit around the faces as if they've been digging their face into these. Then I just took a really large dry brush and covered it in the blood paint and then flicked it onto the models. That's how it looks, so splattered onto them. I'm quite pleased with how that turned out.
Marvelous.
Then we've got another picture of them. We've got this, which is a Mind Screech, which is just a standard Mantic model. There's no conversions going on here. So it's basically...
This is like their Beholder. Beholders
yes,
in D&D.
a big brain floating around, screeching into people's minds, for instance, basically. So I'm pleased with how that turned out as well. And then this one I basically made out of bits. So it's a bad squiddo infested wishing well, which has tentacles poking out of it usually. I've put the tentacles underneath it, so it's now floating. And then I've put a Mantic's giant's hand sticking out, and the GW Mega Gargant's face sticking out of the ooze.
So be very careful what you wish for.
There's a few things in the Night Stalker's army list that I could use this as. I could just use it as another Mind Screech. A few other options as well. They have quite a few different. I think that's a very cool effect with the slime pouring over the sides where the hands come out.
Me too.
And I've put a Bad Squiddo spider nest on the base to hold up the flying stand as well.
Wow. Now, I can imagine it's quite tricky to paint the nest.
The nest is actually incredibly easy the way I've been doing it. As I've been painting it white and then using the contrast paint, the white one, which darkens all the crevices up.
Yeah.
And then I've been dry brushing white over it.
Yeah, very effective.
So very pleased with how this army is coming along. You can actually see some of them just about in the shot up here. They're barely sneaking in there. I've brought the whole army into this room so I can compare them to each other as I'm painting them to make sure it's all nice and consistent.
It's lava, isn't it? Spider lava.
Delicious.
So your partner wakes up in the morning and sees that army. It's a nice sight to behold, isn't it?
Well, it's not right next to the bed, to be fair. Kind of up in an alcove.
Does she get nightmares? I suppose that's the idea, isn't it?
I'm sure any nightmares are totally unrelated to the hideous tentacle collection I've got on the shelf right next to the bed. That. So, Golden Demon has gone. The analysis will keep rolling on, and next week we'll look at some slightly older Golden Demon entries and see how this, not only the standard has changed, standard of painting, but also the standard of judging, what they're looking for, and overall, how is painting evolving and how is competition painting evolving. I think it'll be an interesting dive into the past next week. So Daka likes the Mind Screech. I should hope so too. Lazy Pirate says, loving your Night Stalkers, hopefully I'll get to face them across the table sometime soon. Yes. I only need to get probably, well, this other Shadow Hulk. That's the next thing I'm painting. Once I get that done, the army is then totally illegal and unbalanced, so I need to get some just basic troops done. So if I get a couple of hordes of those, that's probably a tournament-worthy army about ready there. So they're not far off now. I just need to paint 1 billion scarecrows.
Yeah.
Done in no time. So let's get the old episode thumbnail up there. I think we addressed the controversy and we analysed those paint jobs. We were very harsh and critical. not on artistic merits necessarily in terms of perfection, but in terms of what we like personally. Very subjective judging paint. And don't forget to like this video, by the way. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already for some reason. Don't forget to click all the links in the description, including subscribing to Remington's channel. Get to check out the Patreon, of course, if you want to keep this channel afloat during these dark, turbulent times. You can throw me some of your life savings to allow more time put into this channel, which is always nice. And anything else we want to touch on quickly before we depart? Any parting words, Mr. Remington?
Quick skim through the comments. Thanks for your contributions. Harry Garu has made a very valid point in the chat and talking about the controversial little lizard that won the Golden Demon. He says there's a lot happening without having to add wildly to the model with a giant base or something. I think its weak points are in the GW sculpt itself, which is very true. It's surprising that the most basic of GW sculpts won Golden Demon. I think that's my biggest criticism.
That is fair. I think model selection should be important in these competitions. Certain models lend themselves more to certain painting techniques. Some of them don't have that much going on in the sculpt, so that is something to consider. Just doing the best job you can on, for example, a basic Space Marine. Is that as good as doing the best you can on a Greater Demon of Tzeentch, for example?
Yeah, Andy, I can see the logic, because if it could somehow paint the whole army as good as that one skink, then that army would really be something special.
I want to see that painter's plan. That's what I want to see. That's what should be a Slayer Sword entry. Show me their slan. Okay, time to wrap this one up, folks. It's been Emotional Rollercoaster. We'll be back next week with more painting analysis, probing debate. Till next time, all that remains to be said is good night out there, whatever you are.
It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer